The next item on the agenda is interest arbitration award and compensation agreement between the District of Columbia Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department and Local 36 International Association of Firefighters, Compensation Unit 4, Emergency Declaration Resolution of 2014. I'd circulated this last week, I believe, as a draft, and I need to explain what we are doing here. The compensation agreement between the government and Local 36 International Association of Firefighters, also known as Compensation Unit 4, was introduced at the request of the mayor on May 23rd. On June 10th, the Committee of the Whole held a public roundtable on that PR, but the executive withdrew the PR because the way it was submitted, it had actually restated the contract. It was inconsistent with what had been approved by the arbitrator. The executive resubmitted this compensation agreement as PR 20-920, and the Committee of the Whole reconvened its roundtable on July 8th, that's last week, to receive testimony. As submitted by the mayor, the proposed resolution would approve the interest arbitration award and compensation agreement, but would disapprove two provisions, Articles 18 and 44, pertaining to overtime and tour of duty. These provisions, or rather issues underlying these provisions, are currently pending in litigation between the district and the union. And I would note that the law with regard to compensation, our approval of compensation agreements, does not appear to give us authority to accept in part or reject in part provisions of the contract. Moreover, I had indicated to the executive that I felt that the council should not take sides in the litigation, and disapproving of those two articles could be construed in the litigation as taking sides. And although I had requested of the executive that they work with the attorneys either on the Committee of the Whole staff or in our General Counsel's office so that the resolution that came over would be acceptable, that did not occur. And as a result, what the mayor submitted is a resolution, which we cannot amend because of Home Rule Act limitations, that would have us approve in part and disapprove in part, and thereby taking sides. The solution is to handle this as emergency legislation and as an amendment in the nature of a substitute, and so that's what we have before us. The award includes various working conditions, provisions, and benefits, with no wage increase in fiscal year 2011, a 3% increase in fiscal year 2012, a 3.5% wage increase in 2013, and a 3.5% increase in FY14. I'm not stating the effective dates of those different increases. The funds are sufficient for these pay raises, and so there's no issue there. I move the declaration so that we can proceed to the underlying approval act. Discussion on the declaration. All those in favor of the declaration say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. I move the underlying Emergency Approval Act of 2014, which is an amendment in the nature of a substitute. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Grasso.
I just want to take a minute here to thank you for the work that you've done on this issue. There's been several hearings. I know you've really pushed the government in the right direction here, and I appreciate that. I think this is an important bill to get through today because it will make sure that our firefighters get the money that they deserve and the long-awaited raises that they've been trying to pull together for some time. It'll still leave open the questions that are before the court, which I think is the appropriate step here and the appropriate way to move forward. So thank you very much for the work you've done on this, and I look forward to supporting it wholeheartedly.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grasso. Mr. Wells?
Yes, I do want to also note that our firefighters and emergency medical service personnel have not had a raise in over 7 years. Over 7 years. And the amount of energy that's gone into fighting issues with our rank and file has been disappointing. But finally, with this action, we will get a raise for our firefighters, for our paramedics, for our ambulance drivers, and they will be compensated at a rate that's competitive with the surrounding jurisdictions. So I'm very glad that we're getting that done, and Mr. Chair, thanks for your help with that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilmember Bonds?
I'd like to add my voice to thanking you for coming up with a doable solution for a category of employees that have been in need of a result from the government for many, many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further discussion? Let me be clear. So what we're doing is we have an amendment in the nature of a substitute in which we converted the resolution to a bill, and the bill makes explicit that we're approving the contract but without prejudice to the litigation, either side of the litigation. And this meets the requirements of the Comprehensive Merit Personnel Act with regard to approving the compensation agreement, or more particularly the interest arbitration award, which we're doing by act rather than by resolution. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously.